And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Benefit of a Doubt podcast. This week we are talking to Cliff Thomas, who... Wait, actually, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to start over. This is raw stuff for the YouTube channel, but you're going to edit this out later.
Correct.
And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Benefit of a Doubt podcast. Motorola re-entered the flagship phone space earlier this year with the Moto Edge Plus, and co-producer Cliff bought it and somehow has not returned it. So we are here to talk to him about the Moto Edge Plus. This is our full review. Cliff Thomas, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my sadness. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, legitimately though, like we've been talking about this phone for weeks, back and forth off the air, and it seems like you're actually kind of happy with it. So yeah, I mean, that's like a big reason why I wanted to talk about it, was because this is a Moto offering that is actually impressing. So why don't we start off the way we normally start off with? Let's take the high level view. What are your overall impressions here?
Okay, so yeah, you're absolutely right. This is Motorola's first foray back into smartphone, or into a high-end smartphone. I guess you could call it the flagship level of smartphone, since the original Moto Edge and Moto Edge Plus that they came out with in, I guess, 2019. Does that sound right?
It's been a minute. I don't remember exactly when it was. Moto took a couple of years off the flagship space there for a while. So I don't remember if it was 2019 or 2020. But anyway, yeah, it was somewhere in that neighborhood. We can move on.
So again, I would say it's kind of a parallel to what they did before. Kind of, sort of. You have a Verizon exclusive, well, in this case, version of this model, and then you have the unlocked model. And they are ostensibly the same phone, but there are some differences. There's some differences in RAM, and I believe my version does not support Verizon's millimeter wave.
Ah, okay.
Right. Also, I believe the standard storage with the Verizon model is significantly. It's actually kind of funny. They get, and we'll go into the specs in a little bit. The Verizon model gets 12 gigabytes of RAM. The unlocked model gets 8 gigabytes of RAM. The unlocked model gets 512 gigabytes of storage, and I believe the entry level Verizon one is 128 gigabytes. So
really,
yeah.
So that bad boy has half a terabyte of storage.
Half of terabyte of storage.
Wow!
Out of the box, but less RAM. So
yeah.
Like you're talking about, let's do the zoomed out view. As you know, I think I mentioned this on the podcast. I do have an affinity for Motorola phones. I have since the original Moto X, and that includes both some of the things they have done with hardware in the past. I loved with the original Moto X that you could the fact that it was assembled in the United States and that you could custom order it. Those two things were definitely selling points for me, and the software that was relatively unchanged from stock Android, but then they add their nice little enhancements on top of it. So things like Moto Gestures, so you can. I'll just do it here on this is great radio, but I'll do the little chop action, turns on and off.
There's the flashlight.
Yeah, I can do this, and it launches the camera. Ta-da! There's me. Wow.
There's two of you.
That's right.
There's two of you. There's your face, and then there's your face.
That's right. And your face and your face and your face.
I like how you comment that chopping the flashlight is great radio, and then you proceed to shine the flashlight directly into the camera, making it simultaneously bad radio and bad TV. Well played, sir.
That is why you bring me on to, make things just a little bit more difficult for all of us.
The way I look at it is, if you're going to make a bad radio, may as well make a bad TV too. Why do you think we started this YouTube channel? Badoom!
Badoom! Right. That's production value is what that is. Bad production value. Now, and so I think from like a hardware level, this shares some of the ethos or design philosophy between the original Moto X and this model. They have something similar in that they have this curved back, which if you want to, you can go to Motorola's website or check out some reviews if you want to see some pictures. And I believe we'll have a picture or two maybe on the website. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah, probably,
Um,
maybe we'll see.
so it fits very nicely in hand. It is a big phone,
Hmm.
but unlike some phones that are just big slabs of heavy meat, not good
Right.
looking meat, but like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra that I have in my hand. I mean, you can see they are very
Basically the same
similar,
footprint.
basically the same size of phone, but
Okay.
the difference in weight, oh, you could feel it. Um, the difference, I guess you could say, I don't know. I said I was going to do like an overall like overview of it, but I guess I'm just talking about in hand feel right now.
Yeah, we could
It
transition into hardware. That's fine.
Yeah, okay. So it is relatively lightweight in my hand. I'm not actually looking to see what it weighs, but just in terms of experience, it's a nice handling phone between the curved back. It does not have like the previous or the first generation Edge phones. It does not have curved glass on the sides, which is
Okay.
what the original Edge stood for. That's the reason they named it that way. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. Right now it's just a brand, and I think I actually prefer a flat edged screen relative to curved edges for palm or finger. What is it? Accidental touch rejection, anyway. So that doesn't bother
Yeah.
me.
I always will prefer a flat screen over a curved one. Thank you very much.
So
That's me.
yeah, I'm kind of the same. Let's talk about a few things with the hardware. It has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which is kind of the de rigueur for any smartphone that wants to call itself a flagship or a near flagship, unless your name is Apple or Google or I guess Samsung in some regions.
Yeah. You know, it's
uh,
funny. I fully expected you to say, like, when you said Snapdragon 8, I fully expected you to say 88 after it, and you just didn't. I don't know. For some reason, like, in my brain, we've kind of like skipped over the Snapdragon 888 for whatever reason. Even though we had a whole slate of phones, this is just such a stupid tangent. But even though we had a whole slate of phones that had the Snapdragon 888, I just don't even think about it anymore.
yeah,
But anyway,
it
yeah.
is. The other thing is too when you've reviewed a bunch of different phones, things just tend to run together unless you're like specifically thinking about the
Right.
naming of things. And I think this is actually the first of their generations of processors that maybe is a new. I don't think it's a new architecture, but it's sort of a new generation for them. But yeah, so
Yeah.
it is a responsive phone as you would expect. I think as I mentioned earlier, it does have 8 GB of RAM.
Hmm.
512 gigabytes of storage. So, in terms of capacity, I mean, honestly, probably more than I will ever use. This can actually shoot 8K video. I can't ever see myself doing that. But if I wanted to, it's one of the few phones that I own that could actually, hold a little bit of video before I'd have to offload it to get
Very
some
true.
storage back.
Very true.
So there's that. It is running, and well, we won't talk about the software yet. So 8 GB RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage. It has a 50 megapixel. Actually, let me talk about the screen since we're talking about the front of the phone. It
Yeah. Okay.
is it is a POLED display. Uh, and I'm trying to remember. This is the thing that okay. So it is a full HD plus display.
Hmm.
This is the one thing that I always have a hard time remembering with phones at this level, whether or not they have a full HD or an ultra HD display, because honestly, I have a really hard time telling the difference.
Right. Oh yeah, I can't tell the difference at all.
And
Old
so
eyes.
I really have to go back and look because otherwise I'm like, not so sure. So yes, 6.7-inch plastic OLED or POLED display, FHD plus, and it's got what I think is I don't know, I wouldn't call it an exclusive because I'm sure there's another phone that has that out there. But one of the few phones I know, the second phone from Motorola actually that has a 140 or 100. Okay, let me just see if I can say that without spitting everywhere. 144 hertz refresh rate.
Okay.
Yeah. So very responsive. I can't tell the difference between this and a 90 hertz display, honestly, or a 120 hertz display, but it is very responsive. Everything that you would expect from, um, between the RAM, the processor, and the high refresh rate screen, it feels very snappy. Let's
Are
see.
we sure about that 144 hertz refresh rate? I thought it was 90.
It is 144 hertz.
Okay. They
Yep.
just got that right out. Never mind.
So yeah, it's 144 hertz, and then actually, and the reason I say this is sort of I don't want to say exclusive to Motorola, but the Edge 2020 that I reviewed, I guess, was it this year or was it late last year? I can't remember. The other one
you did review that, didn't you?
That's right, and it also had that 144 hertz refresh rate. So this is
Nice.
not their first phone that has shipped with that, and it does have a 4,800 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty standard around that 5,000 milliamp hour these days. Really good battery life. I mean, it's definitely an all-day phone plus. I think if you can't deliver that with most Android phones these days that are at this price level, you've probably messed something up, unless it's a niche case like a really thin phone, or something like one of the folding phones where you just can't fit it in.
Right.
And so hardware wise, there's a lot to like here. It definitely checks, I think, most of the boxes that you would expect to check for a phone that we will discuss the price in a few, but a phone that is priced at the level that it's priced. Now we're going to turn to the back, and you're going to see where maybe they did a few things. Actually, let's talk about the side first, because one thing I didn't mention is it does not have what you would kind of expect an in-display fingerprint reader. Rather, it has a side-mounted fingerprint reader, which actually I don't mind.
Yeah.
Other than I think it's maybe just because you expect it at this level to have the in-display fingerprint reader. But honestly, when it works as well as this one does, if anything, it maybe is just a little oversensitive. But in terms of the quickness with which you're logged in, it's very quick. So I definitely cannot complain there. And it's one of the few that I've used that doesn't have an indentation. It actually is a clicky button that looks just like a regular button. Like, honestly, if you looked at this, other than maybe the difference in the finish, because the power button is a little less shiny than the volume buttons, you wouldn't know that it's a capacitive fingerprint reader. But it's there and it works well. Just a little surprising, I think, considering the pricing that we'll talk about in a little bit. And as I did say, sometimes I'll pull it out of my pocket and I've somehow inadvertently touched it, and I'll have to enter my PIN. So, that could just be a me problem. I don't want to, say that that's necessarily something that they need to work on. Maybe that's something that they could fix with a software update, but maybe your experience might be different. Maybe I'm just too handsy with my phone. Oh, I forgot to mention it does support 30 watts of charging. So nothing near close to some of the Chinese devices that are out there.
I thought you were going to say it supports handsiness. But anyway.
That's between me and the phone, Adam.
Yeah, that's fair.
Me and the phone.
That's fair.
Okay, so as we move to the back, it does have a 50 megapixel main shooter with optical image stabilization.
Okay.
And then it has a 50 megapixel ultra wide, which is nice, but it does not have a telephoto lens. Again, something that you might be expecting at the price, which we will talk about later. Instead, it just has a depth sensing camera at, I believe, 2 megapixels, which is kind of like, sticker camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's probably used for something, but when you're expecting an ultra wide or a telephoto, it just would have been nice to have it, at the price that they're charging for it. It does have a ridiculous 60 megapixel front-facing camera.
Well, I just thought
I just always find it really funny when the megapixel count on the front camera is higher than the megapixel count on the back.
Agree. But I mean, these days with like social media, TikTok, Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, like all of this stuff, I mean, people are just setting up their phones and like going and dancing in front of them. And so, I mean, these days that makes sense. Back when this first started, 3-4 years ago, that did not make a hell of a lot of sense. But yeah,
right. So, I totally get why it's there. It just still like it's just still not something I'm expecting, and so it always makes me chuckle a little bit,
right,
when I get that. But I will say, so a couple of things. The main camera, I think, and this is something that Motorola has not been particularly great at ever since the original Moto X shipped. Is their camera, especially, I would say it's not necessarily the camera hardware, but their their processing chops on that side just haven't been close to I guess the monoliths that are out there, like your Samsung or your Apple, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it's equal to that now, but I will say in low light, or I'm sorry, in good to awesome lighting, it takes really good pictures, especially with subjects that aren't moving. And
Do we
even
want to transition over to like look at some photos while we're talking about this?
yeah, we could do that. I should also
Okay.
mention that the 50 megapixel ultra wide is they also call it a macro camera, which is kind of awesome rather than having like the sticker camera.
Yeah, definitely.
For doing, which they some other manufacturers will call a macro camera. This can actually get you some high quality images. So yeah, let's take a look at some pictures.
So for those of you who are listening, sorry, this would be an example of when it would be advantageous to go watch the YouTube channel. And if you want to slot in at the YouTube channel right about 16 minutes, you can start looking at these photos if you want. And perhaps I can even embed some photos on the Wix site if you want to go check the if you want to go check the show notes at benefitofadoubt.com. So so let's dive right in. This looks like your former place of business. Is that right?
It is. That is correct. So
F those guys.
Oh, I love the place. But yeah, this is my this is the walk that I take in and out, or did take from with my previous employer. And so it is a beautiful place, and it was always kind of an inspirational place to take images, especially if you're reviewing a camera, because it was always something consistent in terms of, that's the subject matter I could kind of find, especially if it was like one phone after another. Anyway, so yeah, this is early in the morning with the main shooter, and this is less than perfect light, but it is also a cloudy day, so you get that,
I find cloudy days to be quite good for, especially for product photography, because the light is diffused everywhere. So I will not complain about that at all.
That's absolutely right. That's the nice thing is right. You don't have a lot of, you don't get things like lens flare. The clouds diffuse the light, and it gives you nice, very even lighting. But also because, it's spring, and this particular tree had some flowers, and then you have the white building, and then the sort of white sky. It was just kind of
and it looks like the phone catches a lot of the detail of the brickwork. So that's important, because I've been looking for a white brick house around my neighborhood, and I have not found one yet, or some type of white brick building, just because I would like to check out like details like that. Because I know, Juan Bagnell, when he does camera reviews, he often shoots like white stucco to see like what the detail is like, what that
the detail level is, right?
But I don't have anything around me like that. So and
well, you know where to go if you need it. So I have switched to another picture, and by the way, for those of you who are listening, I am just I created an album on Google Photos, and we're looking at the web, but I do upload all of my pictures in original quality, and so yes, this will just be compressed on YouTube, but I think you will be able to see some of the details. So this is again from the main shooter, and I was just playing with the focus here, and so you can actually see I've got the subject matter that's closer to me, like actually not in focus as much as something that's in like the min, but it's still as much as the mid or farther away. But you get a nice bokeh effect of it. And if you've ever used the Motorola camera app, it's pretty simple, and I like that about it. If you want to switch between different modes, like I think it's got actually, let me just look, because that's.
While you look that up, I also want to say, for those of you who are watching the video, I am actually listening to Cliff, but I've got some kind of tablet around that's beeping like crazy. And so I'm trying to figure out where the hell. I know exactly what tablet it is. I just can't find it. And it's like kind of driving me nuts. So that's why I've been like looking all around me. I am totally paying attention. We're looking at flowers now, but no. So yeah, just FYI, if anybody's like distracted by me, like whipping my head around and like looking for stuff, that's what's going on. So sorry about that. And Cliff, you are not allowed to edit that out of the final.
No, that sounds. Oh, believe me, they would have already heard it going don't in the background.
Just leave it in there. So leave it in there.
It'll just be there, and
it'll just be there, and it's fine. Jason Howell taught me that.
That's right.
That's a
So
deep cut.
this is switching from the main sensor to the ultra wide, which I actually was playing with the macro function, and I was relatively impressed with the macro function.
Yeah.
This was a kind of a breezy day, and the fact that I was able to get a pretty crisp close up picture of this flower. While
Yeah.
in fact, I think you can actually see like some of the other flowers that are around it. They're maybe in motion just a little bit, just
Yeah.
from the. And here's another one. This was actually from. I believe it's either a Bradford pear tree or a sugar maple
Huh.
with these flowers on it. So
Okay.
again, you can see that sexy stamen there. Oh, the stamen. No, but again with the macro,
Let's
it
not
gets
go there.
it's really just nice and close. And
Oh,
what's that?
keep going. Keep
Did you
going.
find it?
No, I screwed up with the stream. Yeah, you're fine. Go. Go. I was trying to see if I could just do the thing without the stupid talking people over on the left there, but I turns out I can't do that, so never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then this would be
Move
the
on.
last camera sample. So again, I switched back to the main sensor here, and I was playing with depth of field.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so this really was with the majority of the pictures. I was just trying to get a good sense of the capabilities of the camera in a what was a pretty nice day for taking pictures, as you saw, because it was
Yeah.
overcast.
Yeah.
That at least gives you somewhat of a sense of what the camera is capable of in what I would say is still, because it's not a bright sunny day, at less than perfect light with with some breeze going. So this tree was actually moving around as I was
Mm,
these flowers are moving around as I was trying to take the shot. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
And you know what else is awesome? Having a great monitor that you can look at these photos on. And I'm going to take this opportunity to go ahead and transition right into our tech. Yeah, let me go ahead and remove that. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to take the opportunity to transition on over into our tech. Yeah, because we are looking at a Lenovo Q24i monitor that Lenovo sent me to try out. And that is the third of the three monitors that I use on a regular basis. That is
Ooh.
my communications monitor. So the way I kind of have it is I've got the big screen, curved screen monitor over here. This is where I like do a lot of my research and, video watching, stuff like that over here. I've got my laptop display in the middle, and then I've got this Lenovo monitor over on the left hand side here. And what I do is I usually split this up into two different sides so I can have like multiple messaging platforms going all at the same time. It's a 24-inch monitor. It's actually a 23.8-inch monitor, as the name would apply. It's a full HD monitor. It's an IPS panel with a refresh rate of 75 hertz.
Hmm.
So it's not. This is not a baller monitor. This is not going to be a huge gaming monitor. This is not going to be a huge
I'd call it like a workhorse monitor.
Yeah, it's a workhorse monitor. That's exactly it. Now, this has kind of a cool hinge design on the bottom. I don't know if you've seen this, but Lenovo actually has a all-in-one PC with like a built-in Qi charging deck on it. This does not have a built-in Qi charging deck, but it has the same type of design to it. I really dig the the all-in-one PC that Lenovo has. But so this is not that, obviously. This is just a straight up monitor. But it's got a large square base on the bottom with a hinge that kind of comes out the side and then like goes up on a diagonal and then attaches to the back of the monitor. I believe it also has a VESA mount on the back, so I think you could like attach this to like an arm,
Like a mini
if you wanted
PC
to.
or right, exactly.
Yeah,
Arm.
or you could attach a mini PC to it. So, really, it's a monitor. It's a workhorse monitor. It's super bright. I don't have any complaints with how bright it gets. It's actually arguably the brightest of the three panels that I use. So that's great.
Does it,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, does it lean one particular way or another as far as the color cast compared to maybe one of the other displays that you have that you prefer?
No, actually, I mean, honestly, as far as like white balance is concerned,
Hmm.
it's spot on as far as I can tell. Now there is some like color calibration tools that you can use. I have not done those yet, so and I am ashamed. But you know, another nice thing about this monitor is it is super thin on the top half of it. Like the bottom half has like all the components, but the top half is super thin. I don't have, I want to say less than a quarter inch. Like
Oh, wow.
down by the bottom, it you know it gets a little beefy, but because you know that's where all
Well, that's where the controls are, and does it have, with its power, does it have the converter? Does it have that part in the built into the monitor, or does it have like a brick?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember. Let me check real quick. I can check this right live on the air.
Yeah, because sometimes when you while he checks this, sometimes when you have a display that has the inverter, or I forget what it's called, but anyway, built into it versus having like the brick, it adds a little bit of a chunk to the display.
Can't tell. No, you know what? No, it's just no. Yeah, the inverter must be built into the back because there's no brick there. So
well, that definitely explains if it does have a little chunk on the bottom besides the controls. That would definitely add to it as well. But I definitely prefer that. Like it's nice just being able to plug it in and then plug it in directly into the wall and then not having that brick in between.
Yeah. So another limiting factor to it, by the way, it's a 16:9 aspect ratio. So it's 1920 by 1080. But one limiting thing is it just has an HDMI in. So that is the only input that it has. So that might be a limiting factor if you have like a display port or something like that. So keep that in mind. It's currently going on Amazon for about $220 right now, which is honestly, I would probably say a little bit on the high side, but I mean, it's you know, for a 24-inch monitor, that's not terrible. I mean, you can get comparable monitors for, you know, probably in the, you know, high, slightly above 150s, maybe. Oh, actually, I see there's a Scepter 24-inch monitor here for 130. So, yeah, okay, Lenovo's a little on the high side. I'll be honest, but I appreciate Lenovo sending this out so I could add a third monitor to my arsenal. And if you want to check it out, there is a link in the show notes. Or if you want to check this out and then go buy that Spectre one, that would help me out too. So you can check that out at benefitofthedoubt.com. There will be a link in the description, in the video description below, and in the show notes, and pretty much everywhere that you could possibly go to buy this monitor. You can
and maybe if you ask nicely, Adam will show you his display setup. I haven't seen it in a while, but it used to look like a glass cockpit. You know, it's just screens everywhere.
Oh yeah, well, between that monitor, the laptop monitor, the 32-inch curved monitor, the Google Home, the Echo, it's not an Echo Show, it's the Fire tablet that I reviewed a couple of years ago that turns into an Echo Show when you set it on the dock. That's all the screens I have going, except for when I have like my line of phones lined up underneath my monitor. So yeah, it's still glass. There's still a lot of glass going on here. But,
for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for taking a moment to check out this tech. Yeah. And link in the show notes. Go check it out. You'll be helping out the show and you'll have my thanks. Back to the Moto. Why don't we go ahead and transition over into the software, chat about the battery a little bit, and then we can wrap things up.
Sure, absolutely. You know, I did forget, as I do, as I always forget to mention one thing or another. And I did forget to mention that it comes in two different colors, a Cosmos blue or a Stardust white. If you're watching the video, what I have is the Cosmos blue, which that's my personal preference. I think this is a pretty great color.
Yeah, I like that gradient that goes across the back there.
I do too. And I do really like Motorola's current design language too. It's just my, design's one of those things where everybody has their own personal preference, and I do like that it has. And this is not an indentation, but it does have the Motorola logo in the back with a different finish than the rest of the glass back, so you can actually feel it. and it's still a place to put your finger when you're holding it, so you don't accidentally put your finger on like the camera module, for example. So yeah, let's talk about the software.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything that I think if you actually went back and listened to my previous review of the Motorola Edge 21, I believe that's what it was called.
Yeah.
It is very similar. I mean, the difference being that this is running Android 12, and as you expect, that gives you some additional customization options, as well as the Material U, which you didn't have with Android 11. And so,
and actually, I've heard like a surprising number of phones don't have Material U integrated yet. Like, I think Moto is just one of the few that actually does have it. So that's
right.
Nice.
It is nice, and you still have some things that you'd expect from Moto. Just if you're talking about aesthetics, like the little circular widget that they've had, I think, for 5 or 6 years at least. That is the your clock and the calendar and the date that gives you access to a few different things. But yeah, just like you'd expect with most, at least what I would want with an Android 12 phone, is that you have an option for themes. So this actually has several different themes built into it, as well as theming if you want to give your yourself if you want to give yourself a custom background and then theme your icons and the like. So the things,
just so you know, I've gone solo on you, so you can like hold up the phone and you actually have like room to play with a little bit.
I didn't know that. So let me go back to that again. Yeah, they actually, I guess maybe this is a little bit different than some of the, like, it's definitely different than a Pixel in terms of, I guess it gives you more options, more like a Samsung phone, in that you do get some themes that are built in. I believe you can actually
little higher. There you go.
And you can customize the shapes of the icons and things like that, which is nice. And if you go to your wallpapers, you can select like an interactive wallpaper. No, I think I don't have any download. Oh yeah, I do. Okay, so there's one. And then you can set your wallpaper. This is hard to do from backwards.
I was going to say a little higher too.
Little higher.
Okay, little higher.
So,
there you go.
Okay, so here we go. This is actually what I wanted to show you. Can you see? So you can customize the layout. So that's going to be things like your grid size, your fonts, your colors, and let's see, the icon shapes and your sounds, which is nice. It's all in one panel, which is kind of nice.
That's cool.
Other than that, it's a pretty standard, like near stock experience on the software side. You're not going to find anything that's not unexpected from if you've used a Motorola phone before. It's just a little more Material U-esque.
Okay.
But again, it's the thing.
Back to the dual layout.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. What about like battery life? How have you found it's a 5,000 milliamp hour
4,800 milliamp hour battery, right?
Yeah.
Which I when you've got something that's that size, I kind of just mentally round it up to 5,000 milliamp hours. It might as well be. It's, as I said earlier, it's definitely an all day phone, and then some. And it also has Qi wireless charging. That's actually, I think you and I, if we didn't discuss it on the air, we definitely discussed it off the air about reviewing the in this case, I think it was the OnePlus 10 Pro.
Yeah.
Or at least your use of the OnePlus 10 Pro, and that you were going to try to use it,
not charge it overnight. Yeah.
Exactly. So with me, I mean that's kind of how I use a phone. I use it all day and then I set it on a charger. So for me, it's really hard to break out of that because I'm also like going to work and I can't like have my phone run out of battery like a third of the way through the day. But yeah, I actually feel like if I was not using this as a power user, so let's just say I was just listening to a little bit of music and browsing the web and maybe taking some pictures, not watching a lot of video content, not watching any gaming. It's more of the kind of the stuff that I would use on a daily basis. I actually feel like I could get through 2 days on this phone.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's legit. And I'm actually writing an editorial about that charging thing that's hopefully going to go up tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And by tomorrow, I mean when you're listening to this 2 days ago. So,
so I want to kind of get down to the thing that I've been alluding to, which is the price of this phone.
Yes.
The price of this phone if Motorola isn't running a sale on their website is $999, so $1,000 if we're
Yeah.
doing just kind of like we were talking about with the battery, rounding it up, right?
Yeah, I was gonna
Which
say, I thought it was $899, but no, I'm thinking of the OnePlus. So
no,
yeah, never mind.
it
It's
is
1,000.
right. It actually is $899. It was when I purchased it, and I believe they're running that same
Oh, because
sale
it
again.
was the introductory sale. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they are running that sale again.
Okay.
And but I can't talk about that as being the shipping price because it's not always that price. Kind of have to.
You got to go with the MSRP, baby.
Correct. And
Doesn't
what's
matter
funny,
how many times you slap a sales sticker on it, Moto.
and then here's the kicker too, is that the Verizon exclusive version of this, which has more RAM but less storage, but also supports their millimeter wave, as $849.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Wow,
So
that's so weird. Okay.
it is weird. Just keep in mind that this does have 512 gigabytes of
Yeah.
storage,
Yeah.
and I can't think of any phone that I've seen with that much storage in a
In a base
in a
model.
in like a flag, yeah, well, in a basement level at all, than any
Yeah.
kind of flagship that's been less than like $1,100.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say because I know the S22 Ultra went up to I think a terabyte of storage at its max capacity, didn't it? It was something
Yes,
like that.
but
So,
it's
but I mean,
considerably
yeah,
more expensive at that,
yeah,
even at
oh
the
yeah,
512 gigabyte
oh yeah.
amount of storage. So let's just take a look at the unlocked version as it is.
Hmm.
$999. You can usually find it for $899. That's
Right.
kind of where I'll just leave that. But you're missing some things, not even just compared to the Verizon variant of this phone. Just looking at some of the competitors that are there, even at that $899 price point, that's the entry level price for the Pixel 6 Pro.
Hmm.
I
The
believe
OnePlus 10 Pro.
the OnePlus 10 Pro that has come out since this phone was launched,
It's
and
$100 more than the Galaxy S22 base
S22
model.
base model, right? Exactly. And then I think the S22 Plus is around that $999
Yeah, it's
price
999
point.
straight up.
So it's missing some things, specifically the ultra wide camera. That to me is really the one thing that I wouldn't call it a deal breaker, obviously, because I purchased this phone.
Right.
But
Because I haven't returned it yet.
right. But when I feel like this phone would be much better served by Motorola if they had priced it at $699 or $799,
Mm,
because in performance and specs, I feel like in a lot of ways it better competes with like the Pixel 6, right?
indeed. Yeah.
Which I still consider that the Pixel 6 to me feels like a flagship basically, except for the camera that it's missing, and maybe the fact that it's like the Motorola Edge that we're talking about here is also an full HD plus screen. So
Right.
in a lot of ways, they align with the specs. But the Pixel 6 starts at what, $599,
$599. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's
Couldn't have
really
bought it
hard for me.
otherwise.
It is really hard for me to recommend this phone next to something when you can get something like the Pixel 6, especially when. Now, I will say that if we go back to the software side, I believe Motorola has committed to like at least, I think it's two
I
feature
could look.
level updates and like 3 software or 3 years of security updates. I could be wrong, and if you want to look at that up, you can correct me if
Yeah,
I
I
am
could look
wrong.
up my notes because I know I wrote that down. But yeah, so let's while I look that up, let's go ahead and just let's wrap it up.
Right, which is
Let's
kind of
give
where
your
I was getting to.
your final
It
verdict and yeah.
if you have an affinity for Motorola phones like I do, then you are going to pay a premium for this phone. It does give you some things that you won't find at the price level of its competition, like the crazy amount of storage that you get, but you're also missing some things, like I said, with like the ultra wide camera. Also, the camera is not great in low light. It's okay. It's a lot better than any other Motorola phone that I have used.
Okay.
And I think Motorola has definitely made strides there. And so I'm not angry at the camera. Where I really felt like the camera fell down for me, and a lot of other non Google phones still fall down for me, is when you have a moving subject.
Yep.
Like a kid. I have a 5-year-old, and so I still get
Mm-hmm.
some blurred motion even in the best light. And so you just kind of expect that in at least for me in a non-Google phone.
Right.
Samsung has gotten
Right.
better. Apple has definitely gotten better, but Google to me still is the best at that particular something that if you have kids, is usually pretty important to you. So
Absolutely.
I really
Absolutely.
enjoy this phone. I've been using it off and on more than my probably more than my Pixel 6 and my Samsung, and part of that is because I was going to review this phone. But there's just something about Motorola software that I really enjoy using, and
Understood.
so even with the things that I guess you could call it like feature deficiencies versus some of the competition, it was worth it to me, and it might be for you.
Cool. And speaking of feature deficiencies, 2 years of operating system updates, 3 years of bi-monthly security
Okay,
updates.
so that's what I thought.
Yeah. So, all right, great. Well, Cliff, I want to thank you for being terrible with money and for coming onto the podcast and talking about this phone that you are keeping thus far. I don't know. Has the
Yeah,
return window passed at this point?
probably has. Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be coming up on Swappa in sometime in the sometime in the near future. But for now, let's go ahead and wrap this up. That's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Please consider subscribing to this podcast if you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, I would love it if you would write a review for the show, or you can hit the subscribe button down below. You can like, you can comment. We just hit 300 subscribers, so I'm a little excited about that. If you want some early access, you could jump onto Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the Dowd. You can write to the show by visiting benefitofthedowd.com/contact. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes, but most of all, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening and for giving me the benefit of the Dowd.